Hey guys, so this week we are going to just review for your test. So we've got just a quick review video, and then we will have a little review for your test, and then next week we'll have our test. So what I want us to do right now is I want us to work this question here. It's an inverse trig function. Use a sketch to find the exact value of cosine of sine inverse of -4/5. So take a second and try to do that one for me. Okay, so what this is saying is that sine of some theta is going to be equal to the ratio of -4/A5. So sine, remember, is y over your r. So where is sine or inverse sine going to live? It's going to be in quadrant 1 or quadrant 4, right? So this is going to be down here in quadrant 4. Okay, so your y value will be a -4 and your r value will be a 5. So we need to find the x value here. So we'll have to say x squared plus a -4 squared is equal to a 5 squared. So we'll have 1625, so that's going to be a 9. So x will be equal to a 3. So I want to find cosine of that same angle. So cosine of that theta. So cosine of that theta is going to be 3/A5. Okay, all right, let's do one more. So I want you to find so I want you to find this. This is basically a composition. All right, so I want to find where cosine of theta is equal to 1/x. So what I'm looking for is secant of that same theta. Well, secant and cosine are reciprocals of each other, so all I have to do here is just say that it's going to be x over a1. So for this one, I wouldn't have to do anything special. Okay. All right. So now those are your inverse trig functions. I feel like you're probably pretty good with that. So if you have any questions about it, please let me know. I do want to go over some of your graphs that you've had. So I want to look at I think it was number 7. So number 7 on that IP27 that you turned in for me. Couldn't remember which one it was. Okay, so for this one, remember that standard form, okay, we have an A sine B x minus or plus C, whichever one you do, and then plus a D here. Okay, so the B here has to be factored out. Okay, so it has to be factored out. Well, here it's not factored. There is a number in front of the x. So before I do anything to graph this, I need to factor this 2 out of this little binomial right here. So this is going to end up being -3 sine, and if you factor out, basically you're just dividing by this 2, right? So if you're dividing by 2, then you're going to be left with an x minus a pi over a 2. Okay, so therefore you factored it out. So if you multiply this back, it's going to give you back this 2x minus a pi. Okay, So now my amplitude is going to be the absolute value of 3, or absolute value of negative 3, which is a positive 3. The period is going to be 2 pi divided by that b, which is a 2. Did I say b? I meant a here. I'm sorry. My brain's not working. So that should be a pi here. And then now your phase shift. So now your phase shift is this value here. Okay, so once it's factored out, you can find the phase shift. So for the phase shift, this is going to be opposite sign, so it's going to be right pi over 2. So that means my graph is going to shift to the right pi over 2. So be careful there. A lot of y'all told me that the phase shift was pi, so your graph would be incorrect. Okay, so I don't want to graph it because most of y'all, without even graphing it with the phase shift of pi, you got it correct, even though it was not technically correct. But when you said that the phase shift was pi, the graph that you gave me was correct. So y'all, I feel like y'all are pretty good with the graphing part of it. It's just knowing what to do, like with that one. I just want you to see kind of the differences here. So let's look at number 8 here. Do I have a number right here? I have no number right here, so I don't have to factor anything out. So that is an understood 1 here. So if I were to write it in the form that we are familiar with, it would just be like this, 4 sine, like that. Okay, so my amplitude is going to be a 4. My period is going to be 2 pi divided by 1, which is just going to be a 2 pi. The phase shift is to the right pi over 2. 2 pi. I'm telling you, I need to start over, I think. And then this plus 1 means that it's going to be vertical. It's going to move it up 1 unit. So that means that midline is going to be moved up 1 unit. Okay. All right. So then let's look at number 9. So let's look at this one now. So now that we know that our b has to be factored out, what has happened here? So number 9, the b is already factored out, so we don't have to worry about factoring it out. Okay, so my amplitude is just going to be a 1. My period is going to be 2 pi divided by 4, so it's going to be pi over 2. My phase shift is going to be right pi, because it's already factored out. I don't have to multiply this back out. It's already in factored form for me. So do you see the difference between 9 and number 7? So number 7 was not factored out. There was no parentheses here. Okay, so I have to factor it out. But number 9 here, it is already factored out, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so the phase shift here is going to be to the right pi. I guess all these moved to the right. I don't think any of them moved to the left, did they? And then this one's going to be moving down, so the vertical here would be down 4. Okay. Also for like your secants and your cosecant graphs, don't forget that you have to draw your sine and your cosine curves first, like your dotted lines. So make sure those are dotted lines, and then draw your secant and cosecants, those little U shapes, those basically parabolas inside there. Okay, so let's look at number 11 here. So number 11, I'm looking at a cosine function. Okay, so cosine function, we've got an A cosine B x minus a c plus a d. Okay, so for number 11, we had an amplitude of a 3. We had a period of a pi over 4. Phase shift right 2 and up 1. Okay, so my amplitude is a 3. Cosine right 2, so it'll be x minus a 2 inside of here, and then it's up 1, so it's a plus 1. All right, so here is the one thing that a lot of y'all missed. This is the period of a pi over a 4. So cosine has a normal period of 2 pi divided by b. Well, b is what we want to plug into the function, okay? So b is what we get out of the function. So I need to find what b is. So I need to say that I know my period is pi over 4. So I need to solve for b here, okay? So if I switch, this will be 2 pi divided by pi, right? If I just switch these here. So your pi's will go away, and then if you multiply by 4, so your b is going to be an 8. So there you go. So be careful with that on your graphs. So your test is just graphing and very strict functions. So I think you can do it. I think hopefully you have gotten enough time to go through everything. So you've got a review for your test. You can work it a few times. It is timed, so just make sure that you go through it in that type of fashion. So just be careful. So if you have any questions, let me know. Again, we will have a Zoom on Wednesday night. So if you need anything, let me know.